Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of 4 Star Chicago Sports. I'm your boy, Sean Lugo, and this is the Halas Hangover. I got the twins in the house today. What's up, fellas?
What's going on, Sean? How you feeling?
Oh, living the dream. How you doing, Kyle?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
We are Dustin-less today, but he shall be back next week. He had some family business to get to, but he will definitely be back next
He's
week.
with us in spirit.
With us in spirit, but he'll be on the bare minimum on Thursday as well. So let's kick this thing off really quick with a couple of Bears news and notes. The Bears made a couple of moves. They had a signing today. Of course, they signed Nick McLeod, former DB. The Golden Domer spent time with the Bills, the Bengals, the Giants last year with the Niners. He did have 1,196 snaps over the past 4 years. Comes out to about 300 snaps. It looks like he only had about 225 with the Niners last year, but he has resurfaced and signed a 1-year deal on the lakefront. He's considerable experience on special teams. And Brad Biggs is reporting that this is your Jalen Jones replacement, who left in free agency and signed with the Arizona Cardinals. Any thoughts on this before we get to the next news and notes, boys?
Yeah, I mean, this is probably more primarily a special team signing than anything. I mean, obviously he would play if the Bears had suffered some sort of injuries, but hopefully the goal is for this guy not to start in the secondary for the Chicago Bears at any time this season. I mean, you see he's ranked 180th out of 222 cornerbacks last year with a 51.1 Pro Football Focus grade. He is certainly not a starter in the NFL, but like I said, you can never have enough good special teamers, and it seems like the Bears are just trying to build up all three phases of this team as quickly as they possibly can before the draft starts.
Brando, any thoughts?
I mean, I don't know much about him. I'm going to take Brad Biggs' word for it. I don't like the idea of losing Jalen Jones. Hopefully this guy's as serviceable as Jones is. Jones actually had experience with this defense. I do like a defensive player out of South Bend. That's never a bad thing.
Former Golden Domer. He finished up his career back in 2020. Welcome Erica into the house. Trax is in the house.
Welcome, everybody. What's up, Trax?
Breaking news, Bruce. Appreciate y'all checking us out early on this Friday. Monday, excuse me. A little bit of other news. The Bears hired Laura Anderson, the former chief financial officer and treasurer for the Big Ten Conference, as their senior vice president of administration and chief financial officer. It sounds like the Bears made a strong choice here with Laura Anderson. She's stepping into a role as senior VP and CFO. Her experiences in the Big Ten Conference will likely bring a fresh perspective to the organization. While it will be interesting to see how her leadership impacts the team and growth strategy moving forward. Boys, do you think her background in the Big Ten will help give her an edge in the NFL? Her just a little quick background. She has extensive background in finance, accounting, strategic planning. She offers, they're saying, a strong leadership ability in the administration department, and just wondering how she will adapt to the NFL. I think maybe this has something to do with the deal going on, the stadium deal. Not 100% sure, but what are your thoughts on Laura coming over from the Big Ten, Kyle?
Well, that's exactly what it is, Sean. I read an article about her today. She is a master negotiator, is what they call her. So she is brought here, and she's also a master with finances. So she is brought here solely, specifically to work on that stadium deal. If I had to guess, I'd say that Kevin Warren probably didn't think he'd be as involved in the football side of things as he's been as of late, especially since it was such a disaster with Matt Eberflus and when he got here. But I think he's just trying to bring somebody in here to kind of keep focusing on that stadium, that deal. Try to find a way to get it done. I did talk to an employee who works for the city. He says that he believes the stadium deal is pretty much done in Chicago. They're just working out the numbers. I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't know if I believe him, but he is a City Works employee for the city of Chicago. So he claims that they are headed to downtown, so the lakefront in particular. But there's no merit behind that, guys. I don't know this guy that well. He was just a customer at the restaurant I work at. He claims that the deal is almost done.
Brandon, any thoughts on Mrs. Anderson's role?
I'd imagine this is somebody that Kevin Warren knows on a personal level more than just
Yeah.
the business side of things. So if Kevin Warren trusts her, he seems to be making a pretty positive impact over the Bears organization as far as I'm concerned. So if he trusts her, I'm with it. I mean, good for her, man. Good for
Yep.
her.
And Mr. Warren said Anderson's role will encompass an oversight of all financial accounting and information technology operations involving the organization. She will be instrumental in navigating an evolving financial climate and deploying technology as a competitive advantage for the advancement of the progression of the Chicago Bears. You know what they say? Winning starts with a strong financial foundation. So bear down, Laura. Welcome to Chicago. So what do you where you guys want to go next? We had the Bears brass down in Ann Arbor. We had a couple top 30 visits. Where you guys want to start?
Whatever you guys do, man, I'm cool with it. I have a couple write-ups out here on Joseph Vaughn and Mason Taylor. If you guys want to get into these guys, that some of these guys the Bears have started to talk to or show interest in.
Yeah, let's get into some top 30 visits at the Chicago Bears. Oh, really quick. Before we do that, I just want to let everyone know April 24th, River Street Tavern, 102 North River Street in East Dundee, Illinois. We will be having a live Chicago Bears draft party. We are working on plenty of gifts for you all, but what we do have are some Chicago Cubs tickets ready to give away for you guys. We're raising money for charity. Bears Cares. We will donate the money in. They'll put it out to where they feel it is most needed. We also have a nice Charles Tillman autograph, which I forgot to upload the picture again, but we will get that in for you guys. So don't forget April 24th, River Street Tavern, 102 North River Street, live draft party. Let's go. Kyle, get into it.
Yeah, so I don't believe he's been scheduled for a top 30 visit, but somebody the Bears have been talking to and are showing interest in is Joseph Vaughn. He's a linebacker out of UCLA. He previously was with the Ivy League school at Yale. He's 6'2", 234 pounds. He ran a 4.66 40 time, and he had a 9.45 relative athletic score. That's a RAS score. He did most of his damage in the Ivy League, guys. He did not play a lot at UCLA in 2024. He was more of a reserve. I think he only appeared in 5 games last year, but as an Ivy Leaguer at Yale in 2023, he accumulated 88 tackles, 55 solo, 33 assisted, 13 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 3 interceptions, 5 passes deflected, and 3 forced fumbles. And of those 3 interceptions he had, he did return one of those for a touchdown. I think this guy is becoming more and more prominent, and as the draft gets closer, due to his athletic score. They say his measurables are comparable to guys like Micah Parsons. He just seems like a guy who's a really good athlete, probably more of a project. I don't think this guy's going to be drafted very early. Like I said, he was more of a reserve at UCLA. I think he probably does have connections with the Bears in some way, shape, or form. He's also been, I think he has a top 30 visit with the Saints, but this is a guy you can get in the later rounds. Like I said, he was at Yale. He was the all Ivy League first team in 2023 and second team in 2022. He was at the University of Yale from 2019 to 2023, and then played at UCLA for last season, 2024. Like I said, as a reserve, guys, I think last year at UCLA, he only had like 8 tackles. I think it was something like that. He was more of a special teamer, but obviously the guy is incredibly athletic. He would project to be an inside linebacker at the NFL. I think the Bears are just kind of keep an eye on some of these guys because I think the Bears do eventually expect to draft a linebacker. I don't know if it's for depth guys or if it's to fill that role that Jack Sanborn has left when he signed with the Dallas Cowboys. But they are obviously looking at linebackers because there's a couple of linebackers that and I know, Sean, you've got some information on another one that they've been looking at as well.
Yeah, we got what was his name? Nick Martin is the other guy that came up as a top 30 visit. He actually, and again, this is from WalterFootball.com. I don't have any confirmation from the Chicago Bears that it was actually a top 30 visit. He is listed as a top 30 visit for the Chicago Bears. So this is Mr. Vaughn, and excuse me. The Oklahoma State Cowboy. He was first team All Big 12. He ran a 4.53 40 at the combine. He was second in the position at 26 reps. He had a 38 vertical, 10.3 broad jump. He has had visits with the Browns, Patriots, the Saints. He did have private workouts. In 2023, he had 140 tackles, 6 sacks, 2 interceptions. He did miss most of last season with an injury. but he is back 100%. He did work out the entire combine, and he was there for the entire senior day weekend. So some of the things that have to go on with him, he had his max acceleration was 6.2 yards per second squared, and that was a top 10 speed at 1797. So this guy is really fast, and I'm going to show you where that came from, because this is where he chased down Xavier Worthy in the open field, which everyone knows he's been the fastest man at the combine for I don't know, for quite some time. But here this is.
And the touchdown is 18th for the year against a three-man rush, and he lobs it out to Xavier Worthy. He may go, and they trip him up from.
So as you can see, that boy can absolutely fly. Martin kind of burst onto the national scene in 2023. His freshman year in 2022, he was not very productive. But in 23, he led the Big 12 in tackles, solo tackles, and tackles per game. He led the entire conference at 140 total tackles, as most of any Cowboy since 1984. Most by any Big 12 player since 2018. His 83 solo tackles topped the conference and ranked him third among FBS players. His rapid ascension is evident with his accolades. In 2023, he was considered for the Chuck Bednarik Award, the Lombardi Award, the Bronco Nagurski Award, the Buckus Award. He had 16 tackles for loss that ranked 20th in FBS. Well, he had a sack total. His sack total paced him 21st nationally among linebackers. What the scouts say, they say he's a heat-seeking missile at the second level. He possesses the tools to be a three-down impact player in today's NFL. He's elite in short area. He has elite short area quickness, and instincts allow him to excel in space, making him primed to fit for defenses that prioritize speed and versatility. While his frame raises questions about his ability to be consistent at the NFL level, shedding blocks may be his biggest concern. Martin's strengths are his tackling prowess suggests that he can overcome his size limitations. His best scheme sit is a will in a 4-3 defense as an inside linebacker. Let's see. They said his weaknesses are his undersized frame. His undersized frame says he's not suited to be an NFL Mike linebacker. As I just stated, he will struggle, they're saying, at the pro level to shed tackles. He's over aggressive and with his pursuit angles at times and can run himself out of plays. He has limited sample size as a full-time starter, only one season of significant snaps. He may need time to adjust, they said, to more sophisticated NFL blocking schemes and route combinations, and he too often relies on heavy athleticism, and he needs to develop more patience and run fits. With that all being said, there's a lot of scouts that still like this kid, and right now, if you go on NFL Draft Buzz, they have him as an undrafted free agent. I did read today that he was sneaking up into the 7th round. So we'll have to see. He was in for a top 30 visit, and as you guys can see, 5 other teams have looked at him at least. So there is some kind of feeling for him around the league. What are you guys' thoughts on this gentleman, Mr. Nick Martin?
I don't love the idea of using a top 30 visit on a potential undrafted free agent rookie, to be honest. I don't know that line speed is what this team needs at linebacker. They kind of got that in the 2 players they have. I also don't love the undersized frame. Sean, you know, I've said this time and time again. The Bears linebackers have a lot of trouble getting off blocks. They do. It's their biggest weakness, especially Tremaine Edmonds. I don't want another guy like that. I think that's why you haven't seen Noah Sewell played much on this defense. He's not a very physical guy. He can't really get off those, those swing guards that are able to get out in front. He can't get off those guys. I don't love the idea of drafting this individual. If the Bears were to sign him after the draft, sure. It's let him play for it in preseason, man.
Yeah, like I said, I think the Bears are definitely interested in adding a linebacker at some point this offseason. I don't think it's going to be a high pick by any means necessary. I don't think they're looking at somebody in the 1st or 2nd round, but they are obviously interested in adding a linebacker. Probably a good idea. He lost Jack Sanborn. The Bears didn't have a bunch of depth at linebacker to begin with. Vernon mentioned Noah Sewell. I don't know. That guy's never even played for the Bears. I don't think they think he's anything spectacular. He's probably a cut candidate, but I would expect them to add somebody at some point. There are a couple other guys left in free agency out there the Bears could think about signing as well. I can't think of their names off the top of my head, but I did some research, and there's a couple guys out there who still. I think there's a guy from the Colts. You guys know his last name's Speed. You know what I'm talking about? I think he had like 117 tackles last year, something like that.
He's the second highest ranked remaining linebacker in free agency.
The only problem with him is he had a lot of missed tackles. I think they said he had like 38 missed tackles or something like that last year. That could become a big problem for the Bears, but. Any of these guys who they plan on signing would only be out there when they're in 3 linebackers. So none of these guys are going to have a bunch of playing time for the Bears anyway. They're probably more primarily special teamers. But yeah, Sean, when you're talking about guys in the 6th, 7th round or maybe even undrafted, you're definitely looking at guys who can run fast, guys who are strong, guys who are like athletic freaks, and maybe you can mold them into becoming something more of a football player. But yeah, I wouldn't read too much into either of those 2 linebackers. I wouldn't expect much excitement around any of those guys. Those guys are probably going to end up going undrafted, but they're definitely somebody the Bears would consider bringing here if they do not get drafted, for sure. No doubt about it.
Well, the interesting thing, too, was when we start talking about some of these top 30 visits, it's interesting that 2 linebackers popped down because I mentioned last Wednesday on the Barely There podcast that I thought this was one position that the Bears were – that no one was paying attention to and no one was talking about. And then all of a sudden, here's a top 30 visit. And I didn't even know about this other Vaughn kid. I mean, I don't know that he's something serious, but I really do think that this is a serious concern for the Bears. I mean, if we lost Jack Sanborn, we don't have anybody that's covering that spot technically right now, unless you want to say Amen is your guy. I love TJ Edwards. And I know some people do, some people don't. I still have faith in Tremaine Edmonds turning it around under Dennis Allen's tutelage, putting him in better spots. I think there was something with what was here before, because as Kyle's touched on in the past, this guy was an all-pro in Buffalo, and he just came to Chicago and sucks. It just doesn't make sense to me whatsoever. So there's something not right, and all we can do here as Bears fans is hope that Dennis Allen is going to unlock that cage, and get Tremaine back to that Pro Bowl level that he was at when he was in Orchard Park. So that's my hope. But I still think this is something either through free agency or through this draft. This needs to be addressed. I mean, Chicago is a linebacker city. We always have been. And I don't know that we have that superstar Brian Urlacher, Lance Briggs type here right now. So, maybe they surprise us all and take Campbell at 10. And I'm not speaking of Will. I'm speaking of Jihad. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Sean, with the pedigree that position holds here in Chicago, how upset would you be? Because honestly, Ryan Poles has not treated this position with. I mean, he did go get T.J. Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds, but he traded away a blue chip player at this position. And like you said, this city's been built on that position alone. It has. I mean, you go from Butkus to Singletary to Urlacher. It is a position that the Bears have hung their helmet on for as long as they've been around, man. And they could use somebody who makes a difference like Roquan Smith does. Is this just a position you think Ryan Poles doesn't prioritize?
Yeah. Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to pay an outside linebacker over $100 million. It's just not a premium position in the NFL right now. I mean, the middle linebacker is definitely the most important of the 3, especially if you're running a 4-3 defense. I understand why the Bears parted ways with Roquan Smith. Not to say he's not a great player, because he is. He's probably the best outside linebacker in the NFL. It's just when you're building a team from the ground up, you got to focus more on the offensive line, corners, wide receivers, left tackle, center, quarterback, those premium positions that you're going to have to spend a lot of money on. I couldn't be happier that the Bears are now on the top 5 highest paid offensive lines in football. I'm glad that's where their money ended up. That's where it should have gone in the first place. I hope they are always in the top 10 highest paid offensive lines in the NFL. I think that's the key to winning football games and winning championships, is the offensive defensive line. I'm glad with the decisions they've made. I'm not over concerned with the fact that they haven't added an outside linebacker. I do think you can go find a guy. We've talked about this, guys. We've talked about where these guys were drafted, guys like Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards. These guys were not drafted high. You could make a really good athlete into a really good outside linebacker. We've seen it with Vaughn on the Eagles. I think he was a 3rd round pick. That's not something I think the Bears should focus on in the first 2 rounds, but it's definitely something that you do address at some point for sure. Sean, you want me to go over Mason Taylor real quick?
Yeah, really quick, to this Broski Bear point, I was actually kind of surprised that they let Sanborn walk as well. I thought Sanborn they would actually sign him maybe to a team-friendly deal, bring him back here and address that position maybe next year if it didn't work out, especially as Broski Bear points out, Edwards in the last year of his contract, Edmonds you can get out after this year. So I really did expect Sanborn to be re-signed and brought back to Chicago. So I'm with you, Broski
Sanborn
Bear, on that.
and Jalen Jones, they've let some not just quality depth pieces, but guys that have had to play some football for this team have just kind of walked, and that's a surprise when you're just as much in need of depth as you are starters. I wouldn't let the guys go that are playing quality football for you when their number's called.
Yeah.
It's been a bit of a surprise how they've treated the guys who were already on this team as depth.
And what would you attribute that to? Getting rid of the Eberflus stink, or does Dennis Allen just have a different vision? And doesn't see these players fitting into that vision.
Yeah, I would imagine it's a
It
little
comes
bit.
down to money.
It was probably a little bit of both too. Probably guys that Flus had his hand in getting here that Poles didn't necessarily want any part of, and guys that maybe they felt Jalen Jones played a lot of football. Guys, maybe they didn't feel like he played up to par when he was on the field, and they clearly liked Josh Blackwell, so they went and maybe they think they have a lot of DBs on this team. Even
do.
depth, they have a lot of DBs. I don't know if they're going to go into next season with as many as they had the last 2 years. It would surprise me honestly if they did.
Well, sometimes guys, when it comes to guys who are in reserve roles or depth roles, backups, they will ask the player like, hey, either we can re-sign you here or you can go get a chance to start somewhere in the NFL if that's something you'd like to try. And like, for instance, Jack Sanborn, I mean, I understand that it was a 1 year, $3 million contract, but with the incentives, he can make well over $6 million. I mean, that's pretty steep for an outside linebacker who didn't make that much of an impact on the Bears last year. I'm not saying the guy's not a good player, but it's not like he's a guy you're constantly hearing his name on the television or he's constantly making splash plays. He's certainly not a ball hawk. He's just a guy who kind of does his job. For $6 million a year for a guy who kind of just does his job, I understand why the Bears have moved on. I think you could find a guy like of that caliber in the third, fourth, fifth, sixth round. And I'm sure that's the Bears are planning on doing. Not to say that Jack Sanborn's old because he's just coming off his rookie contract, but I think it's time for the Bears to start focusing on getting younger key positions. I mean, we just signed a 33-year-old guard, just signed a 32-year-old. I think he's about to turn 30. How old is Jarrett? He's about to turn 32.
He's 32.
Yeah, so he's going to be 32, defensive tackle. At some point, the Bears need to start thinking about addressing the depth in the draft and kind of grooming those guys to replace these guys once these guys decide to hang it up, or maybe the Bears just don't want them anymore. But another guy the Bears have met with this offseason, I don't think it's technically a top 30 visit, but as tight end Mason Taylor, who's 6'5", 251 pounds out of LSU. His position rank in this draft is 5. That has him projected to go in the third round. His 40 time was a 4.64. This guy is very athletic. His overall rating on draftbuzz.com was 84.9 out of 100. His quarterback rating when targeted was 92.8. He had a 92% hands grade, 81% short receiving grade, 84% intermediate routes. So that's obviously his strength grade. And then deep threat in 80. So not a guy that's of all the things on his Draft Pro Football Focus rankings, that was his worst besides blocking. And you guys, all of the negatives when it comes to Mason Taylor are blocking. I mean, every single weakness that was listed was blocking. His blocking percentage on Draft Buzz was 67, one of the lowest of the top 5 tight ends to be drafted in this draft. His strengths are natural hands catcher who plucks the ball away from his frame with consistent technique, outstanding spatial awareness against zone coverage, consistently finding soft spots and adjusting routes based on defensive levels, fluid athlete who changes direction seamlessly. And his weakness, once again, guys, was well below average blocker. He gets pushed back too often in pass blocking schemes, and he is not good at creating run lanes for running backs and run blocking schemes. So this is a guy, if you draft him, he is there primarily to be a pass catching tight end. He is not going to be a guy who's going to be chipping off the end of the line. He is not a guy you consider like a Mercedes Lewis, where you're like, he's almost like having a third tackle on the field. By no means necessary is Mason Taylor going to be that guy. But once again, it's obvious that the Bears are trying to find a pass-catching weapon tight end in this draft, and it's probably going to be somewhere around the 3rd, 4th, 5th round if they do end up accumulating a 4th-round pick. What do you guys think about Mason Taylor?
Well, I'm going to tell you.
Real quick, Crooked Commish, I like to call him Lever Flus, and he did leave, so. Yeah,
Oh,
go ahead, Sean. Sorry.
no, go ahead.
I don't like this. Is another one I don't love, guys. I don't love any of the Bears' visits or combine interviews so far. And obviously, you're going to like the guys who they probably would have to reach or trade up for. But like Kyle said, he's not much of a blocker, and he's more of a even at 6'5", kind of a slot receiver than he is a tight end. He can't play on the outside. He's not a contested catch guy. He's faster than the average tight end. He's a little undersized for his height. If I honestly, if I'm looking at Mason Taylor, they just went to. We'll
He's a
get into
big
this,
dude,
guys.
man.
A little. We'll get into a little later. They're going. They went to the Ann Arbor Pro Day. I would look at Colston Loveland, who's a very similar player to this, who I think is a much better player than Mason Taylor is.
I wouldn't call him a small kid. He's 6'5", 250. He's kind of a big boy.
I don't think he just doesn't play big. He gets
doesn't-
kind of thrown around, from what I'm reading.
Well, he was third team All SEC and set the single school record at LSU for tight ends at 55 receptions. He's the only tight end in school history with 100+ receptions and 1,000 receiving yards. He did start all 12 games last year, 55 for 546, average 9.9 per catch and 2 touchdowns. And a little tidbit: do you guys know who his father is?
I do not.
Fred Taylor.
Not Fred Taylor, a different Taylor, a Hall of Famer, Jason Taylor. His uncle is also a Pro Football Hall of Famer, in Zach Thomas. So the bloodlines run
Two
deep.
very good players.
Yeah, the bloodlines run deep.
I mean, but do you guys honestly believe that he's a realistic candidate, considering that Ben Johnson is so concerned about blocking from every single player on the field? I mean, this is all we've heard about Ben Johnson for the last 3 years. Everybody has to block. Everybody has to block. Everybody has to block. And here the Bears are looking at this guy, and I looked at his weaknesses, and it was like block, 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 block. Weakness.
Yeah, needs significant technical refinement as a blocker. Plays too high and gets overwhelmed at the point of attack. I don't love that at all. I want a guy who, when he doesn't have the ball in his hands, is still making an impact on this team, especially for yak guys like DJ Moore and Roma Dunza. You need people in front of them that can make quality blocks.
And we got our boy back. What's up, T? I didn't think we'd see you after last week. How's it going? How your kitty cats doing this week?
What's up, T? Thanks for joining us, man. Broski. What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us, guys. Everybody in the chat. We appreciate you, Crooked.
Please hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already, guys. We appreciate you.
Wow. Broski thinks Taylor's going to be a second-round pick. I don't know about that, but where do they have him? Where do they have his draft projection? I thought he was like a fourth round guy.
It just says day 3 from what I'm reading. It doesn't say what rounds.
Yeah, Broski Beer says here that
Fourth or
Florida
fifth.
can't block at all. But I mean, if that's, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I watch every Lions game, Broski. But his blocking grade by Pro Football Focus was a 73.6, which is well above average. His pass blocking grade is actually a 76, which is one of the top tight ends in the NFL that are also pass catching tight end. I mean, I'm not saying Sam Laporta is the best blocker in the NFL, but he certainly gets the job done. I mean, you're talking about a team that has one of the slowest offensive schemes in the NFL. I mean, all the plays that they run there are very long developing plays. So these guys have to hold their blocks for long periods of time. I think Sam Laporta held his own. I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not saying he's the best blocker in the NFL, but for a guy who can catch as many passes as he does, who's a defense or an offensive touchdown threat, I think Sam Laporta can hold his own in the blocking game as well. 76 is nothing to be ashamed of.
Sam Laporta didn't have to block. All Sam Laporta had to do was chip somebody. He played on the best offensive line in football. He didn't have to do too much blocking on there. A guy who's playing on this Bears team's going to be doing a little more blocking if he's next to Braxton Jones.
Broski, I know there's a lot of people that feel the way. This is my thoughts on PFF grades are they're trash, very subjective stats, pass block win rate, pass rush win rate, etc. I don't disagree, but I do think there's some validity to them. I didn't understand.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it's a bunch of idiots sitting in a room making shit up. I mean, these guys are watching
trash. Those ratings are trash.
I know Brandon hates them. but, you know, there's got to be some validity to them. I mean, they are used by some of the Best
By
analyst
college
in the
scouts.
business.
By
Yeah,
college scouts. By the guys
and-
scouting college talent. They use Pro Football Focus a lot.
That's
No.
the Moneyball theory. It's analytics. It's when you're diving real deep into something based, not even really. Sometimes it completely negates what you see on the field. That's what bothers me about it. Is somebody will throw me these numbers for like Coleman Shelton, and I got to tell them I watched the guy suck with my own eyes. I don't care what his fucking PFF grade
Yeah, but
was
like
this week.
we've talked about this before too, guys. You also have to be aware of sometimes the scheme is calling for these guys to do things that you do not know that they're asking them to do. Like for instance, some guys are asked to go sit in space instead of chasing down the ball, and you're like, why is that guy just sitting there instead of chasing down the ball? But that is what they're asked to do in case the play comes back across the middle of the field. You just never know what they're asking. The guys who run Pro Football Focus know every single play in the NFL. They know every single scheme in the NFL. They know what these players' responsibilities are, and they grade them accordingly. We don't.
Hey, I'm not in
Unfortunately.
support of Laporta being a bad blocker. I don't buy that. But I certainly think that PFF is underwhelming when it comes to the evidence it presents based on what I'm watching on the
Well,
field.
I mean, like I said, guys, I haven't watched much of LSU football games, but I can tell you, I looked at 4 or 5 different draft profiles for Mason Taylor, and they all had the same thing.
No, he's a terrible
Not
blocker.
a good blocker.
Draft
By
Buzz
any
has him.
means
I do trust Draft Buzz is good. Draft Buzz has him as one of this draft's worst blocking tight ends by all measures.
I think that's probably why he falls to the 3rd round, or they have been projected to fall to the 3rd round. I think that's why that is. I think if he was one of the best blocking tight ends in this draft, he would probably be projected to be an early 2nd round pick because he does everything else well.
And he says he plays out of the slot. He's good at short receptions, and his QB rating when targeted is 92.8.
Yeah,
The
like
guy's
said,
reliable.
Like I
He's
said,
a reliable
his
pass
biggest
catcher.
his biggest strength is intermediate routes. That's what you want. You want Caleb to throw those 15, 20-yard passes. That's those deep threat. The deep threat is only going to get a couple chances a game, right? You know, if you got to go get a guy like Xavier Worthy, you're only asking him to run 60, 70 yards down the field and bombing it to him a couple times a game. But those intermediate routes are going to be the most often used in the NFL, unless you run a Bears scheme like we've seen for the last 3 years, where it's all screen passes, which we don't want to see again, right? With the Bears fans, we do
The
not
Bears
want
have
to
done
see
a very
that.
bad job at utilizing the center of the field. They haven't had a true slot receiver, guys. I know they had 3 guys last year that could play inside, but none of them were specialists at doing so. I think they still need a lot of production from the middle of the field. Cole Kmet can only do so much. Adding another tight end is a great idea. And if it's a guy like this who's strictly a pass catcher, not a bad idea either. You know that somebody like Ben Johnson's going to find a way for Mason Taylor to get heavily involved in a passing offense for sure. But like Kyle said, when it comes time to run the ball, I don't want that guy in the field.
Yeah, exactly. So he's basically becomes a part-time player. It's almost
a
like a
package player.
pass rush specialist, but on offense. Sean, let me ask your opinion on something real quick, because I keep reading these articles or hearing these people on Facebook or Instagram talk about how disappointing Cole Kmet is. Do you believe that Cole Kmet is capable of more than what he's accomplished in the NFL, and the Bears just had terrible coaching staffs that didn't know how to use that guy? Or do you think that Cole Kmet is kind of the guy who we've seen, who's that 500-600 yards a year, 5 to 10 touchdowns, depending on how many opportunities he gets? I mean, what do you think of Cole Kmet as a whole?
I think if Cole Kmet is given the opportunity, I don't think he'll be Travis Kelce, but
Yeah,
I think he can get 700-800 yards. I mean, what we saw and what he was asked to do last year, I mean, Kyle, we watched the games together. We saw this dude miss a lot of blocks. We saw him chip block awfully, terribly. I mean, I'm hoping that was a scheme fit, or maybe just he had given up, because I always thought he was a lot better than what he showed last year. I thought last year was his worst year as a pro, but that goes along with a lot of things that happened on the Chicago Bears. I thought a lot of Bears had their worst years as a pro last year.
Kmet
So
is exactly what he's paid to be. I think he's pretty much achieved his projections. He's done exactly what a lot of people were dogging on him last year, but he hit the numbers he was projected to have by fantasy projections. He was projected to have between 600 and 800 yards and like 6 to 8 touchdowns. That's who I think Cole Kmet is. That's who I think he's going to be.
But as
That's
you
what he
say
was
that,
paid to be.
as you say that and you watch his play on the field, that's what alarms you. Like Broski Berry was saying, it's watching the player, seeing the player, and watching him miss blocks, miss assignments, run into other players. I don't know if that's what it is. It didn't look like Cole Kmet last year. I mean,
Well, I don't think the Bears did any favors for Cole Kmet by approaching the season as if Gerald Everett was the better player.
that too.
Or signing Shane Waldron.
Yeah.
in the first place.
They approached the preseason and the early season first two games as if Everett should be on the field more than
Yeah.
Cole Kmet, and they realized very quickly that was just a stupid approach. But I think Cole Kmet's a serviceable player, but a replaceable player. I think he is.
I don't disagree with that. I think I mean here if you want to look into this, I mean the Bears might not be in play for Colston Loveland, but you do have a Gunnar Helm, you do have an Elijah Arojo, and you do have what's that other kid? Jesus, there's one other kid. I just had him at the top of my brain. There's Fannin from what is it, Miami of Ohio,
Yeah,
whatever
I
it
like.
is.
Yeah, yeah. You got Fannin, you've got Arroyo, you've got Taylor, you've got Helm, Ferguson, Evans. There's some quality tight ends in this draft. There is.
Yeah, there is. And I agree.
I mean, but
I love Cole Kmet because he's from
yeah,
Chicago.
I mean, I've seen
But-
flashes of greatness from you guys. That catch Cole Kmet made with one hand down the middle of the
Mhm.
field against Atlanta, where he was getting smashed at the
2
same
years
time.
ago, yeah.
I think he's capable of doing more of those things. I just don't think. I think the Bears had such porous blocking and such poor schemes on this team, and they're 2.4 rushes per attempt that they started to hold Cole Kmet to block on almost every single play. I don't think that's what they drafted him for. I mean, the guy, by all general consensus, he was one of the best tight ends coming out of that draft, if not the best tight end coming out of that draft. I'd like to see Cole Kmet stretch the field a little bit more.
Moody, what's going on, guys? Do you guys think that if Cole Kmet's plugged into an offense like the Kansas City Chiefs, he
Yes.
achieves numbers like one of the best tight ends in the NFL?
Not like Travis Kelce, but better than the numbers on the Bears, for sure. No
I
doubt
think in
about
the
it.
right system, I think he can be an 8 to 1,000 yard receiver, or eight, just under 1,000. I think
I'm
he could.
hoping because with the loss of Keenan Allen, he's going to have to produce a little more if they don't go draft themselves a tight end.
Cole Kmet is a
Happy-
touchdown machine, guys. I mean, he doesn't get that
He's a
many targets.
phenomenal
He
red
scores
zone
touchdowns.
target.
He has one of the best non-drop rates in the league. He catches everything thrown to him. He's sure-handed.
Hold him a little bit more often, then, right? I mean,
And that was the thing that was a little disturbing to me because you have this big guy, 6'5", 250,
That's huge.
who can catch the ball at the goal line, and the Bears never threw it to him. The most sure-handed guy on your team is Cole Kmet by the numbers, and it's not really close. He's one of the most sure-handed guys by the numbers in the entire NFL. Now, smaller sample size, some other players, but nonetheless, if I looked it up, I think he had like a 98% catch percentage. I mean, his numbers are off the chart.
Yeah, his first drop was in like week 9 or something like
Yeah, like
yeah,
he
and we've
catches
seen those
that.
miraculous plays. We saw the play on the sideline. I forgot what team that was against, but where it was like he was leaning out of bounds and he fell out of bounds and caught the ball. I don't remember what game that was, but that was an amazing catch by Cole Kmet. We saw
He's an
like the one I
athlete.
talked about.
There's no doubt about it. He's an athletic tight end.
If I'm the Bears, I try to focus on getting Cole Kmet more involved, but that's just me.
Yeah, and you know what? If they were, what's up, Jay? What's up, Dennis? Thanks for joining that mass. Thanks for joining in, guys. I really appreciate y'all. I think that just because you draft one doesn't mean you're giving up on Cole Kmet. As you just said, Kyle, he's going to get long in the tooth. We still have to get younger. Tight ends take a couple of years to develop into who they're going to be in the NFL. So if they were to burn a pick on him, 5th round, maybe, I don't know. A couple of these guys are projected to go late, so I would be okay with it. And again, it never hurts. You can have some 2 tight end sets, and I know Durham Smythe is going to be on the field. I do know that. But again, he's a blocking tight end. But I think he's going to surprise some people, wind up with like 350 receiving yards this year. That Ben Johnson will package him up in some surprise ways this year.
Yeah, sneak him out when nobody expects him to catch anything.
Yeah,
just sitting there
exactly.
wide open.
Well,
Yeah, it
and-
wouldn't surprise me at all.
And I think Caleb Williams showed in his rookie season that he likes the tight end. He likes those guys in the center of the field. He likes to throw in safe places. Throwing to the outside is always more room for risk. So you want, if you can get 2 quality pass catching tight ends, even if you take one late in the draft, like Mason Taylor, like 3rd round, maybe a guy who's strictly a pass catcher, it's just providing your future potential franchise quarterback more weapons, guys. There's nothing wrong with that.
So do you got anything else on this topic, or do you guys want to flip it over to our pro day in Ann Arbor?
I will say this, guys. I see names like Will Campbell and Ashton Genty, and I would imagine we're going to see a few more. They might, who knows, they might visit with a guy like Abdul Carter. I think the Bears are leaving themselves the potential to trade up as well. I really
we should
do.
see about 30 of
believe
them.
that. Yeah, I believe that you're going to see more top 10 potential picks in their top 30 visits. I think they're going to leave themselves the opportunity to trade up if there's somebody that blows them away. I do believe
You know what I love about this list, guys, and I know some Bears fans don't want to hear this because they want something flashy and shiny and new, but I love the fact that there's 2 offensive tackles on there. That what that means to me is that the Bears are not done addressing this offensive line. They're going to try to make it the strength of this football team. They're going to try to get more depth so that the Bears suffer injuries like they have the last 17 years on the offensive line. There's somebody who can step in and actually play well. I want to see Caleb Williams given as least amount of excuses as possible next season. Make sure his protection is tight. Make sure his wide receiving core is deep. So in case you lose DJ Moore, Roma Dunze for a couple games, you got somebody else to step in and shoulder that load. I love what the Bears are doing so far. I love what Ben Johnson has done. And Sean, perfect transition here. There is no pro day I'd rather Ben Johnson be at than the Michigan Wolverines. I absolutely love the fact that that's the first pro day he decided to show up to, because there is talent all over that Wolverines roster, all over it.
particularly on defense, because their offense is
mostly on
as
defense.
Shay Norling said this morning, their offense is ass. I would have to agree with that. It's not very good.
Sean, you want to answer Broski's question? Can you throw that back up there real quick, Sean? That
right.
picture. Broski says, "Are these confirmed top 30 visits?" So Broski, if
Okay,
you look right
so
next
no.
to the player's name,
Combine interviews,
Where'd I do this?
top
where
30
did we go?
visits, combine interviews, and pro day.
Sorry,
visits.
I moved the arrow. So
Yeah,
if it says COM, after the name, that's a combine visit. Obviously, Josh Connerly was top 30, Genty top 30, Nick Martin. Again, I'm not sure on that, but they're saying top 30. Mason Taylor was a combine, and then Joseph Vaughn was a pro day. So I actually thought I heard Will Campbell was in Chicago for a top 30 visit. Again, this is from walterfootball.com. It's really the only place where I could find anything related to any top 30 visits or anybody coming to Chicago. I don't know why this shit's like
and
CIA top classified information, but
you're going to see some names like Joseph Vaughn pop up, guys, and don't let that alarm you. You're going to see at any of the coaches the Bears brought in from collegiate football are going to mention some names to them. Some of these guys, the Eric Bieniemys, who was at UCLA, whether he's an offensive coach or defensive coach, he's seen Joseph Vaughn play. They're going to pick these guys' brains about players that were on their roster, and they're going to give these coaches some names that you're probably not going to expect to read.
Well, and Sean, real quick, like Sean said, he doesn't understand why it's like CIA top secret information. From what I understand, these NFL teams are not obligated to report their top 30 visits. So, I mean, it's not like they're trying to hide it. They're just not going out of their way to tell anybody they're doing it.
G14 classified.
Eventually, the player agent will make it public.
I don't
the
think
agent
they
for the
ever
player in the
report them
top
at
30 visit will eventually make all these public. You will get to see.
I don't think they really report them at all. I think it's Bears insiders that are giving you these names. It's
Like I said, the players' agents will leak some of it too. Like, hey, my player Mason Graham is set to visit with the Bears today. The reason he's doing that is because they're creating competition.
Yeah,
they want these guys. They want people to bid higher and higher, so they keep trading up. And he's one of the highest picks possible. Remember, the higher the pick, the more the signing bonus. So you want your player to get picked as early as possible.
That's why Travis Hunter is entering this draft as a DB.
And really quick, guys, before we move on to here, last year, the Bears' first 3 picks were all top 30 visits. And I understand Caleb Williams was a no-brainer, but Roma Dunze, and Karam Ahmadaji were both top 30 visits, both drafted by the Chicago Bears. So maybe there's some validity to these guys coming in,
There absolutely is, John. There absolutely is, because you're getting a chance to see a player's character, and is this? I'm correct in saying this, right? This is where the Bears, their staff themselves get the medical on these guys, correct? Don't their doctors get to take a look at these guys during their top 30 visits?
Yes,
I believe that's the importance of these.
And you want to know what else?
And then Ryan Poles is a big guy on talking to the individual and seeing what he's like. Jalen Carter, right? Ryan Poles said a lot of alarming things happened in that visit with Jalen Carter. So it's about the character of these individuals as well.
What's more important to me than top 30 visits, guys, is when the head coach goes to a pro day, because that's usually a player who's taken in the first round.
Yeah.
Whatever pro day he goes, if he goes to 3 pro days, one of those teams that he went to, one of those collegiate teams he went to, they're going to draft somebody in the first round from one of those 3 teams. That's why the head coach is at the pro day. Usually it's scouts at pro days. If the head coach himself shows up, that means they have their eyes set on somebody very high in the draft. And like Sean, you're about to break it down. Who are some potential Michigan players that Ben Johnson had his sights set on?
Oh boy. I mean, there's 3 that obviously we'd all be interested in. I only think 2 are realistic, though.
There's four that are 4 guys that are going to make a difference in the NFL right away for sure.
I might be forgetting one, but Will Johnson, Kenneth Grant, and Mason Graham, and I know Donovan Edwards was also working out, but he's projected to go a little bit later in the draft, 5th, 6th round.
I think Colston Loveland's going to be.
Colston Loveland. Oh, geez, Colston Loveland. How can I? I'm just not focused on the tight end position because I think there's so many things that the Bears need that.
No, and I think that's the benefit of
it.
That's the benefit. You're right, Sean. That's the benefit of going to look at a Mason Graham
Yeah.
and a Kenneth Grant, as you also get to see a Colston Loveland up close and personal. So if it's a guy you weren't interested in before, at least you get to see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a good way to analyze talent.
For all intents and purposes, I mean, it looks like Colston Loveland's going to be a stud in the NFL. But if he's going in the first 2 rounds, and the name's not Tyler Warren, I think I'm personally gonna say I pass.
Tyler Warren is ways apart from all these other guys.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I saw Colston Loveland in some of these mock drafts going in the middle to the end of the first round. And if the Bears were to trade back and they were to draft Colston Loveland, I'm not gonna lie, it would probably be a little bit of a disappointment to me. And as we're speaking of these top 30 visits, I did Google search today, try and find anything. And right now, no indications show that the Chicago Bears have any interest in going to Ohio State's pro day. And that is where one Josh Simmons will be working out. So that was a little interesting news today that I was going to try and bring to say, hey, let's not get too excited. He's going to be in Ohio
didn't
State.
They meet with him somewhere?
What's that?
Didn't the Bears meet with Josh Simmons somewhere, or they showed up at like his pro day or Michigan?
I think they had a combine interview with Simmons.
Yeah, didn't they have a combine interview with him or something?
I believe
they did talk to him. I don't know.
Yeah,
where,
I'm almost positive the
to
Bears have had some sort of contact with Josh Simmons, so I wouldn't count them
50
out.
combine interviews, and the problem with the combine interviews, you only get 10 minutes with the player.
I think it's less than that. I think it's 8 minutes now. I think they cut it down.
And
Yeah, but
the
don't
only
you think-
problem with not seeing Simmons on an all 30 is your doctors don't get to take a look at
That's right. I was just going to say that, Brandon. And don't you think, because they said that they were going to be looking and his medicals were going to be fully on display at his pro day, if they were interested, they would have someone down there to check out those medicals, check out his physical stature, see how he is. Moving vertically, laterally.
Not showing up to the pro day doesn't mean he won't be a top 30 visit. You don't have to go to the pro day to schedule a top 30
that's
visit.
correct. Yeah.
So he could still, the Bears have 26 more top 30 visits to schedule. Josh Simmons could very likely is going to be one of them. I believe he's going to be one of them. I think the Bears I think tackle, for me personally, guys, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I think tackle is still the top of the priority list for this,
I agree.
This coaching
I agree.
staff.
I agree.
Yeah,
Whether they get the
Braxton
one
Jones is very
I
replaceable.
liked. What do you guys think about? We didn't even talk about Connor Lee. Do you guys like Connor Lee?
I do. I like this pro day. I watched a lot of his senior day stuff too. Watch him dominate at the line. I think you're looking at a guard though. I don't think he's going to project as a tackle in the NFL. So, but if you're spending a 2nd round pick on a guard that you might need, and again, I know Joe Tooney's only missed 2 games in 9 years or whatever, but as you get older,
That's ridiculous.
you never know, man.
Well, and you still don't know which
prepare.
Jonah Jackson you're going to get either, right? Because Jonah Jackson's missed a lot of time, and he's had time even when he
There's my
wasn't out,
concern.
where he
There's
hasn't
my
played very
concern.
well. So you never. I like the Josh Connolly visit. I love the fact that they're still heavily invested in offensive linemen. I think if you guys leave no stone unturned, finish the offensive line this season, and focus on the rest of next year, because Caleb Williams right now is the most important thing. In the Chicago Bears, make sure he's protected. Make sure there's no major injuries with Caleb Williams. Do not let him get beat up like you did last year. If they decide they want to go get a left tackle to upgrade a guy, Josh Simmons, to upgrade it over Braxton Jones, make Braxton Jones your swing tackle, I'm all for it, man. Do it. I'm all in.
Well,
And I know it's not a sexy pick. You can't go online on YouTube and look at Josh Simmons highlights. It's not going to look like GNT or T-Mac or these other guys. But if it means that Caleb Williams is that much more safe in that pocket, I'm 100%.
You know what you're doing? You're creating Caleb Williams highlights by drafting these gentlemen.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Well,
That's
and
right.
while we're on the subject of tackle, Sean, why don't you go ahead and dive into the two guys that are probably getting the most attention at Michigan's Pro Day?
Oh, well, I'm sure that he was there to check out Mason Graham. Obviously, we went over him
Probably.
a couple of weeks ago on the Barely There podcast. And in this situation, for me, you're probably going to have to trade up, give up maybe a second round pick. And I know Kyle and I were talking about this, and we're going to get into this, both sides of this, because I'm a huge Kenneth Grant fan. I think Kenneth Grant is a stud. Maybe he's a tick below Mason Graham, but I think this dude reminds me a lot of a former Chicago Bear who wore 96 in the middle of that line for a long time, Akeem Hicks. This guy is agile. He can get after it. You saw him chase down Craytron Allen 30 yards down the field at 340 pounds. I mean, this guy brings everything you want. He's a space eater. So if the Bears aren't interested in trading up, or Mason Graham, say Mason Graham goes at 6. Let me ask you guys this. If Mason Graham were to go at 6, would you guys be giving up your draft to move up 4 spots if it cost you more than a pick?
There's a very few select players, Sean, that I would trade up for. And yes, Mason Graham is on that list. I would trade up to acquire 3 players: Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter. I don't care if anybody says it's a need or not. I'd get Travis Hunter or Mason Graham. Those are the 3 players I'd be willing to trade up for.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I believe, for me personally, guys, I think if Mason Graham is going to be a top 5 pick, the Bears are going to be out of that conversation. I just don't think the Bears are willing to part with that much draft capital to go up and get a defensive tackle. But if they're sitting there in the draft and Vegas picks at 6, say they pick Gianti, and Mason Graham is still there at 7, and the Bears call, do you guys know who's at 7?
The Jets.
And the Bears call the Jets and say, hey, what will it take for us to get to 7, give you 10, and so we can go get Mason Graham?
Well, and I don't think
the Jets say, all we're looking for is a second round pick. To me, that's worth every bit of it, guys. I like Sean said he thinks Kenneth Grant can be that Akeem Hicks type player. I think Mason Graham can be that Aaron Donald type player. And I'm not saying the caliber of Aaron Donald, but I'm saying a superstar in the NFL and a guy who's constantly creating problems for the opposing offense. If that's the type of guy you think he's going to be, a generational type player who's constantly creating problems for the offense, go get him.
Well, the beauty of
him.
He's projected by all measures to go to Jacksonville. If he makes it past Jacksonville, guys, if he makes it beyond the Jaguars, who pick 5, none of the teams picking between Chicago and Jacksonville are in major need of a defensive tackle. If he makes it beyond 5, let's say they do shore up their offensive line, they get a guy like Will Campbell, he might fall to 10. He might. There's a possibility that he falls to 10.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's such, like, I understand what you're saying when needs are defensive tackle, but if a guy like Mason Graham is there, even if you don't necessarily need a defensive tackle, that's a guy who will make a major impact on your team for long. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Jets decide to, especially with Aaron Glenn now there as the defensive coordinator, now just hired as the head coach. Don't be surprised at all if the Jets just go out and get a Mason Graham at 7. That wouldn't surprise. I would not be shocked if I was watching the board and the Jets announced that they're selecting Mason Graham out of Michigan at number 7. That wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, this guy is a difference maker. He's a blue chip quality player. He's a generational talent that's going to be a good player in the NFL for a very long time, barring some major injury or legal trouble or something like that. I wouldn't trade up to the top 5. I think the Bears have too many holes to be giving away that much draft capital, but if all you got to give away is so let's see, guys, the Bears went from 9 to 10 2 years ago in that trade for Jalen Carter with the Eagles. And all the Eagles gave up to move up from 10 to 9 was a 4th round pick. So what do you think about if they from 10 to 7
pick a year from then, right?
Yeah. What's 10 to 7? A 3rd round, 2nd round, maybe? I mean, I bet the Jets would be like, how bad do you want him? How bad do you want this guy?
Well, with a talent like him, and Jalen Carter was there too, man. Probably a latter 2nd round to move up 1 or 2 spots.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade up to the top 5. I wouldn't give away half my draft for Mason Graham. I think you could adjust the defensive tackle position next year. It's not like Dexter Billings and Grady Jarrett are bad players. You're still going to have a serviceable defensive line. I'm just saying, if he's still there at 8 somehow, like he falls to 8, and you think he's going to be taken at 8, I'd have no problem giving a second-round pickup to get Mason Graham. That he's going to be an absolute beast.
If the Bears trade some draft capital and walk away from this draft, guys, with Mason Graham, they have made themselves a competitor. Their defense is definitely the weaker, which I can't believe I'm saying this, guys. How long has it been since we can say this? The defense is the weaker side of this team. It is, without a doubt, currently as it stands, the weaker side of the ball. If they can make an impact player like that, if they can acquire an impact player like that in the draft, my God, watch out for this team, honestly.
And if they can't, and Mason Graham goes number 4 to the Jaguars, and they end up with a Kenneth Grant at 17, I won't be upset at all. By any means necessary would I be upset. I love Kenneth Grant. You guys know me in my big schools, especially Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama.
And you're getting draft capital.
Draft guys from those schools because they've been playing NFL style schemes already. So the transition's not that tough.
You're going to acquire some draft capital. Kenneth Grant is projected 22 right now. He's actually ranked the 7th player at the position, which I disagree with.
I think that's all defensive alignment, isn't it? That includes defensive ends as well, right? Yeah. So defensive tackles, he's probably ranked what, number 3, 4?
I would put him a top 3. A top 3.
Kenneth Grant. Ooh. I mean, because you got Walter Nolan, you have Derek
Walter
Harmon.
Nolan's a stud.
Mason Graham.
Yeah, Mason Graham.
I like Walter Nolan more than Kenneth Grant, personally. I do. If I was going to trade back to take a tackle, it would be Nolan over Grant. I know we're talking about Michigan.
No. I could see that.
I'm happy either way.
Yeah.
I'm happy either way.
The
Bears get better. With either of those players, the Bears get a lot better.
There is another guy on this Michigan team, guys, that I wouldn't mind the Bears. I'm sure they went to this pro day to take another look at as well. It's another trade back candidate. He is still in the first round, but
is it Will Johnson?
Josiah Stewart. Stewart, the defensive end, the pass rusher. I mean, this guy, he's 6'1", 250, so undersized for a Dennis Allen defense, but he is a monster at getting after the quarterback. And by the way, guys, there are only 2 players from Michigan who rank in the elite, which is an 88 or above by Draft Buzz standards, and that's Mason Graham and Will Johnson.
Well, let me ask you guys a question. Just throwing out a scenario here. If the Bears announce they're on the clock to draft at number 10, and they trade Tyreek Stevenson for a 4th-round pick and draft Will Johnson at number 10, are you upset?
No, I would love to take the best player at a position. I've told you guys, if you're getting the best player at any position that's not kicking the ball, you did well.
Sean?
Give it to me one more time.
The Bears are sitting there at 10. They're on the clock. Roger Goodell announces that the Bears have traded away Tyreek Stevenson and are drafting Will Johnson at number 10. Are you upset?
No. Although Will Johnson Tyreek Stevenson, I think, was 2nd in the league with 28 pass breakups last year, or over the last 2 years.
That's the problem with Tyreek Stevenson is you don't know what you're going to get. Are you going to get the Tyreek Stevenson that showed up for the first 6 weeks last season and looked like he was making these leaps and bounds, becoming one of the best players in the NFL? Or are you getting the Tyreek Stevenson that was talking shit to the crowd while the Washington Commanders were beating the Bears on a last-second Hail Mary?
It was reported that he was celebrating with Bears fans.
That's what they said. If here, I'll say this: Tyreek Stevenson may evolve into a good player, but Will Johnson, I think, is going to be a superstar. So yeah, I would be okay trading it up because I think you're upgrading at that position. So, and you're making yourself
a blue chip. It's a blue chip.
I mean, and then you got
Tyreek Stevenson's not a blue chip talent.
Then your corners are Will Johnson and Jalen Johnson, brothers, Johnson and Johnson,
and your nickel's Kyler Gordon. I mean, give me a better secondary in the NFL.
You're going to get a lot of interceptions with that shit. I don't care who your defensive tackle is. You're getting that's a ball hockey secondary right there, man. Jalen Johnson's gotten better at interceptions and getting his hands on passes. So
Will Johnson,
I wouldn't be upset at all if the Bears took another.
Will Johnson to me is just one hair below Travis Hunter as a DB. I think Will Johnson is a phenomenal player. I would not mind the Bears drafting a Will Johnson at 10.
Travis Hunter would be awesome because you got that one of the best corners in the NFL. And then if DJ Moore does get hurt, you could be like, hey, Travis,
you're going to use Hunter at receiver regardless if Moore and Rome stay healthy all year. What's going on, guys? What's up, Harris?
But Sean made a good point on this show I don't remember when he said it, but right now you lose Rome or Dunze or DJ Moore, and that wide receiver room starts to look Pretty bleak, dude.
Don't worry, we got
it's not like it's unheard of.
Zacchaeus.
No, absolutely not. If that's their answer, that's severely disheartening, man. Severely disheartening.
That's definitely your starter. If you have an injury, that is your starting.
I think they should look at guys in the late rounds, like guys like
Pat Bryant,
Nick Nash, those guys. Like I would love
Jalen Noel would be great later.
I think I think number 3 receiver should be pretty high in the Bears priority list. I'm not saying first 2 rounds, but I would consider that in the 3rd round for sure. No doubt about it.
Jordan Tyson, guys, Arizona State, Jordan Tyson. This is a very late round receiver.
Late round pick.
He is a touchdown machine. That Arizona State team we saw play Iowa State in the bowl game, they're not a bad football. I think they played him in the conference championship, but quality receiver who you could get. He's pretty under the radar. I don't think this guy's on many teams' radars right now. I would definitely be looking at him.
Or Nick Nash of San Jose State, man. That guy, he had 16 touchdowns last year, dude. People are like, yeah, but the competition. I'm like, I don't care. All you can do is play the guys in front of you. This guy had 16 touchdowns, dude. Like, that's a guy who's good at football. I don't care what you say.
I think there's a really deep wide receiver class where the Bears should end up getting somebody in here, man. And I think, too, when we talk about these D tackles, I mean, I think there is a little bit of separation from Walter Nolan to some of these other guys. But I think when you start getting into the Kenneth Grants and the Derek Harmons, I think you're starting to play on an even playing field a little bit. And I think they're all going to be studs. I just want to know if anyone can do this.
5 rushes, 43 yards today. Here's Kaytron Allen. Allen with a nice cut. Kaytron Allen down at the 40-yard line.
Sean, that was a hip drop tackle, dude. That was a hip drop tackle, dude.
He blew people away at the combine.
I gotta say this, Kyle. It might have been a hip drop tackle, but that is a 4'4", 40 running back being chased down by a 340-pound fucking lineman, man. And it's impressive as shit.
Dude, the Bears are definitely. I had a little tiff with somebody on Facebook yesterday. The Bears are definitely still a defensive lineman short in that rotation. I mean, they need to add. I don't care where, when, how. They have to add something.
2 or 3. They're 2 or 3.
I agree.
Yeah, they need 2 or 3.
Well, they need a defensive end too, guys. I mean, I would not be upset if the Bears drafted defensive end at 10.
Sorry to jump around, but in regards to receiver, the Bears did visit with Rondale Moore. They did visit with McCole Hardman. They didn't sign either one of them. It's very clear the Bears are still interested in adding.
McCole Hardman chose
artillery
the Packers.
He did?
Yes.
Yeah, you didn't read that? Yeah.
He had offers from both teams, and he chose Green Bay over the Bears.
He pulls his hamstring.
Like, dude, you want to get passes from Jordan Love over Caleb Williams? Are you insane?
Oh, Kyle's here. Kyle Harris is here. He's gonna get upset.
Well, and
love you, Kyle.
But I'll say this, man. Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs are always injured. McCole Hardman's going to play football for the Green Bay Packers. If he was on this roster, he's the 4th receiver on the Bears. If Rome Odunze and DJ Moore prayers, they do stay healthy all year, you're not going to see a whole lot of McCole Hardman. I really don't see him serving more than a special teams role on a team with. And then I like Zacchaeus more than Hardman. I do. I know you guys aren't crazy about him.
I don't mind Zacchaeus. I don't mind Zacchaeus at all.
I think he's a player who can make plays when he gets the ball.
Player. That's all. That's the only thing I think about Zacchaeus is it would not be my number 2 receiver. So if one of those 2 guys gets hurt and he's your number 2 receiver, you're in trouble. You're gonna be in trouble.
He's unfortunately not a guy who he doesn't catch downfield passes. That's what's everybody like. That's what's kind of killed him in his career. Is he needs to get the ball on a short. He needs to make plays with the ball in his hands after the catch. And the Bears have 2 guys that are better than that. It's the key. So.
Let me ask the chat here. Illinois Jones. I know Broski Bear, if you're still hanging out with us, buddy, you guys both said you like Kenneth Grant. You would take him at – he just said Illinois Jones just said he would take him at 10. If you had a choice between Grant, Harmon, and Nolan, say Mason Graham is gone, so it's Harmon, Nolan, and Grant. Which one would you guys
Illinois Jones followed that up right after he said that. He followed up with 10. A would be O-line.
God said
B would be D-line, and C would be something. What do we think would be something else?
No, Illinois Jones says I take Kenneth Grant at 10. Illinois Jones, I'm sorry. I got to disagree with you on that because I think you can get Kenneth Grant and draft capital. If
at 15.
I don't think you need to
It would just be
reach on
crazy not to
Kenneth
trade
Grant.
back.
I think you can get him at like 16, 17. The
Plus,
Bengals would probably be willing to trade
14, 15, Nolan or Grant's going to be there. So you could
Yeah,
trade back and
probably.
it's almost no risk because you know one of those two is going to be
up.
there.
I think Kenneth Grant's going to be the third defensive tackle taken off the board.
I think you're
I'm with
probably
Erica.
right.
I'm with Erica. She
Erica.
just said it.
But the point
no
is, if
one is going to be a star in the NFL.
one of those two will probably still be there. Like the odds that one of those two is not there is pretty slim. So it's still safe to trade back. You don't have to be like, well, if we trade back, we don't take Grant now, we're pretty much screwed at the defensive tackle position. Like, no, there's
But
still
if
going to be
And if
somebody.
you're trading back from 10 to 16, 7, you're going to get a quality pick or a few picks for sure.
You should get your another third rounder, or bare minimum your fourth rounder back for sure.
Daniel Jeffries, Nolan, if he's there. So the Nolans are starting to pull even with the Grants.
Yeah, I'm saying it here and now, guys. You heard it here on 4 Stars. There's no way Ryan Poles doesn't get back into this 4th round, even if it requires draft capital
agree
for
with
next
you.
season. This is a very deep draft. A 4th rounder in this draft is an impact player, is a guy who could probably rotate in a starting position. I just don't see in a draft so deep. You need like the first, second, third, 4th round picks in this draft are all going to be impact players. I really think that if you're picking the right guys, obviously, that without having to say.
Yeah, I think the Bears are still about 7 players short. So you still need 2 defensive linemen. You need an offensive lineman, a tackle preferably. Or if not, a guard for depth. You still need a running back. You need a wide receiver. You need a safety, and you probably need another corner. So
And a tight end wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, tight end wouldn't hurt either. So yeah, I mean the Bears. I would have no problem with them trying to accumulate as much draft stock as they possibly can. At least get guys to fill those holes, even if they're not the best in the world.
Well,
At least if somebody gets hurt, you have somebody serviceable there to replace them. But the offensive line, to me, guys, is still the most important.
So Draft Buzz has 13 players.
They're in trouble.
Draft Buzz has 13 players ranked in 88 or higher. That's considered elite. That's the lowest number since Draft Buzz has started pre-draft ranking players. The lowest number of blue chip players since 2020. Since 2019's draft. But this is by all measures going to be one of the deepest drafts in regards to starting talent. You can get starters in the 4th round of this draft. There will be a lot of good players available on the board still. So like Kyle said, if you can get a bunch of players or a bunch of picks in this draft, all those needs you just listed on your fingers, you can get a plethora of them for sure.
Fingers.
And Erica, we did talk about Harold Fannin. He is a tight end that we wouldn't mind drafting onto the squad if he fell to us and the Bears in the right position.
Maybe the Bears could get their first.
And he's currently listed as the 3rd best tight end in the draft.
Maybe the Bears could take their first 3 players and then call Howie Roseman and have him select the round 3, 4, 5.
What's up, Dibs? Thanks for checking in, bro.
What's up, Dibs? How you doing, man?
Well, for round 3, Ryan Poles should just hand it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Ryan Poles should step
All right, Ben
out for a
Johnson, what do you
cigarette.
want?
When round 3 comes around, he should take a phone call. Like, I
You
got
could take a bathroom break.
Somebody just pick for me.
So he's always like eating a sandwich in round 3. Like, Zach Pickett.
And Erica says Landon Jackson.
Zach Pickles.
So
You say Pickles?
if you're at 39 and 41 and you ended up with just a Derek Harmon and a Landon Jackson at that point, I think Nolan and Grant will not be there at 39 or 41. That's just my thought. I don't think
you can. I think you can still get one of those running backs you like at 30.
Yes.
Erica, I will be heartbroken if Landon Jackson is not one of the top 30 visits that the Bears have. I will be sincerely heartbroken. I think Mason Graham and Landon Jackson are very comparative players in regards to motor, and that's something that can't be quantified, but it's also something that you need in the NFL. If you want to be an impact star in the NFL, you have got to be able to play 4 quarters of football, guys. Landon Jackson does not run out of juice.
You guys, all joking aside, this year your 3rd round pick cannot be Velus Jones, Kron Amagaji, or Zach Pickens. It has to be somebody with some talent. I mean, it's your 3rd round pick should be at least a reserve player playing partial time, making an impact for this team.
Yeah. This year,
you cannot screw that round up this year.
No.
The Bears have too many needs right now. If the Bears want to be serious contenders in the NFC North, you got to get that pick right. You have to.
how would you guys overall Ryan Poles' tenure as the Chicago Bears general manager, how would you grade his drafting from the year he started here till last season?
I don't think
he's
it's as
batting,
bad
what,
as some people
300?
make it out to be, but it's not great. I'd give him a C.
Oh,
I mean,
Sean's
it
got to think
depends.
about this.
It depends. I mean, Vernon, you also have to keep in mind, like, are you talking about in terms of each draft pick, or how big of an impact have
I
the
mean, what
draft
do you
picks?
do? You think he's? I mean, just on hits
I
and
mean, he
misses.
drafted Caleb Williams,
You think
the
he's
best
batting
Bears
Kyle, I'll
quarterback
ask you
of all
this:
time.
based on players that should get that either have or should get a second contract with the Bears, how do you think he's batting? I mean, I think
I'd say a C, because I can only think of a handful of drafted players that he's drafted that I would resign, and his third round picks aren't on the team. And he burned
Yeah,
two picks on punters in 2 years.
Yeah, but
Like,
asterisks, right? Asterisks, right? Because someone like Jaquan Brisker was a great draft pick, but do you resign him? Probably not. But he was a great draft pick.
who was that? Who'd you say?
Look what Dustin says here. You guys
Me?
remember when Velus Jones kicked a fucking football up the field to another team?
I said
Against the
Jaquan
Titans.
Brisker. Jaquan Brisker was a great draft pick, but he's probably not going to be resigned here. But
Yeah,
he was
but
a good draft pick.
I won't hold that. I won't hold that pick against him because of the condition of his brain. But when you start looking at the Noah Sewells, who was that stupid kicker he drafted that's not on the team, and we burned another pick on a kicker.
Is that Tressway?
No, it wasn't
Tressway's
Tressway.
a phenomenal player. He's still in the league. He's on the Commanders.
Yeah, the Bears let him go. He got great after he left here. No, he burned a sixth or seventh round
so
pick.
probably coaching.
So
I would give him a C minus, like you guys said.
And probably
Kyler. And you know what? Drafting with the first overall pick in the draft, taking Caleb, I don't even know how much they can credit. I mean, he got that
exactly.
Pick. He got that pick, but I mean, Caleb Williams. Come on.
It was a gimme.
It was either Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams, and you were going to hit either way. But he did get guys like Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker. He got Roman
Is it a gimme, guys? Was that a gimme? Because I don't know if you guys remember or not, but Ryan Pace had a chance to draft Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes and drafted Mitch Trubisky at number 3. So don't give me the gimme. There's no gimme.
So a lot of Bears fans were excited about Mitch Trubisky, man. There's a lot of people thought Mitch Trubisky was the answer in the NFL. I never saw it. I'm with Bill Parcells. Don't draft a guy that's played less than 30 games in college football.
I will tell you this, Brandon. I'm with you. When he drafted Trubisky, I actually didn't know anything about him. I'm like, who the hell is this guy, and why did the Bears just move up to get him?
Yeah, and why a guy who's played so little football? It just doesn't make sense. He played. I agree, Dibs.
He is a Chicago Bears legend.
And why a guy who's nowhere near as athletic as Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes?
Deshaun Watson had only just won
6 passing touchdowns in one game, though.
Yeah, and he was Chris Conti was the safety of the Buccaneers. He was playing.
Oh God! The last tenured player of the Pace era was Tevin Jenkins, who is now a member of the Cleveland Browns.
Well, excluding Jalen Johnson and Cole Kmet.
I forgot those two guys. Yeah, you're right.
And Patrick Scales is gone.
Yeah, he's
that didn't break the newspapers.
Well, Sean, wasn't Cairo Santos signed by Pace?
No,
that was a Ryan Poles sign.
I'll tell you this. You want to talk about another need? How about a kicker that can kick more than a 45-yard field goal?
They're going to get a kicker, but it's going to be post-draft. They're going to
really hope so.
Man.
I mean,
I agree. I've been saying this. Kicker is probably the most needed position, but not with a draft pick.
I'm not gonna lie, guys. I know you don't want to hear this, but I like Cairo Santos.
I don't hate him. You just can't kick the damn ball.
He's on that foreign football players commercial.
I love his celebration after beating the Packers in the last game of the season. I absolutely love it.
You're going to watch that for a long time.
I loved it.
So let me ask you this, though. Do you not think that the 4-year, $15 million contract that Santos got was a terrible, terrible contract signing?
I don't think it's a terrible contract. I think the Bears should set their sights on it. You should try to get better at every position. You should try to kick 60-yard field goals like the rest of the league. But Santos is still a good field goal kicker.
He signed here through 2028, but you limit yourself. You can't kick a 55-yard field goal to win a game.
Jones says yes.
unlike fucking 30 other teams in the NFL.
I'd like to see them give him a chance of kicking a 55-yard field goal. That's what I'd like to see. Like, the
I don't
Bears
know
have
if we
no
want
faith
to
in
do
this
that.
guy. Have we ever seen it? Like, let's give him a chance before we just write it off.
listen.
I've never seen him do it.
Yeah, no,
I
Matt
don't
Eberflus
hate
did
Carlos
not
Santos.
trust him.
Yeah, thank you. I don't want to turn this into I'm sure he's a wonderful human being. I'm sure.
No, I'm
And
not,
inside
listen,
of 40, he's amazing. So the Bears better move the ball.
all I'm
that he
saying is,
signed with
guys,
the
if
2028.
somebody told me, if somebody said to somebody evaluating me, like, well, Matt Eberflus didn't trust him, I'd be like, yeah, well, nobody on the planet trusts Matt Eberflus to make a goddamn
No, and Illinois
decision
Jones
about
makes
anything ever in the world.
Yeah.
So I don't
Illinois
care
Jones,
about that.
right here.
Illinois Jones makes a really good point here, and this is not.
He's got one
Guys,
blocked
this
field
is-
goal in his
this
career.
no,
He
this
gets
is a
them
sincere
blocked.
concern.
Isn't
No,
them plural?
The Packers were scouting him, stating that he's a very low trajectory kicker. He's
Dude, they
easy
were
to
also
block.
scouting the center of
That's
that
not good.
offensive line. So who's to blame?
I mean, the kick was low.
Well,
dude.
they did come out. The Packers did come out. Brandon is right. They did come out and they did say, "Man, we scouted this guy. We knew he was going to kick at a low trajectory, and all we had to do
He's a
was get
low
our
kicker.
hands up."
Yeah, you guys.
kicks
They also
low.
said we scouted the center of the offensive Bears special teams offensive line, and we knew we could run right through the center and absolutely destroy him and get in the backfield in less than a second and block the field
But
goal.
then, Sean, that plays into what we're talking about. The guys who can't kick as far have a lower trajectory because that's how they get the ball as far as they can get it. Guys who can boot the ball straight in the air and still kick it 60 yards are much stronger kickers. And those are the style kickers you see today. The guys who can kick the ball 60 yards in the air, kick the ball almost straight up in the air and still boot the thing 65. Cairo Santos is not going to last very long in the NFL. The Bears are going to get a kicker.
Oh, he's going to last till 2028. I
don't think so. I think the Bears are going to get a kicker and undrafted. They're going to get an undrafted free agent. They're going to compete, and this guy's going to make field goals from distances Cairo Santos only dreams of.
I mean,
That
he
is my
carries a pretty hefty cap hit, dude. 4.2 million, 4.2 million, 3.7. I mean, you're losing almost $4 million every year if you cut him. So
How many games are you losing if you keep him?
yeah, dude, I'm
let's look
saying,
at guys. Let's look at his field goal percentage.
Here, again, I'm not saying I
stop
hate-
talking about the length.
hate-
for a
I'm
minute.
not
Let's
saying
just
I
look at
hate
his
Santos.
percentage.
I
'Cause
just don't know
there
if
are
it was
kickers who kick length
wise.
but don't kick well. So let's look at his percentage.
We
that's
spent
all
way
I'm
too
saying.
long talking about the kicker already here, guys. Let's get
Mario
back to
Santos.
let's
We're
get
gonna
back
get him
to
on the
meaningful
show.
positions.
What I'm saying, Sean, is how much.
How
How
Get
many?
him on the show.
Sean, what I'm saying is, if you could get a kicker who kicks further field goals, but he doesn't make as many inside the 40 as Santos, because what Santos inside the 40 is like 90%, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
95% or some shit like that.
He's good.
So is it worth the extra 5 yards of a field goal if the guy is 85% inside the 40 instead of 90% inside the 40? Like, is it kind of give and take at that point? He's one of the best kickers in the NFL inside the 40.
I want a Justin Tucker or a Harrison Butker.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would love a Harrison Butker.
Yeah, Justin Tucker's available. Well,
Yeah, he's available for prison.
the problem though, Kyle, is
I'm talking
he's
about
the
percentage.
fringe. Cairo Santos is the fringe. The guy who can't kick the 55-yarder is a dying breed. That does not exist in the NFL. Every one of these teams has a kicker who can be relied upon for 60 points. It's all. Who was it? Tom Brady calling a game? One of the guys calling the Bears game called it a gimme. A 60-yard field goal, a gimme, and that's what it's become. And a guy like Cairo Santos isn't going to live very long in a league like this, man. You've got to be able to kick some of these.
Like, so what I'm saying,
kickers.
guys, is like, so say, let's just say like the double doink. Like, say he could kick 60-yard field goals, but he's also
he sucks.
Say Parkey could score 60-yard field goals, but you're still going to get your double doinks inside the 40. Would you take Parkey or would you take Santos?
I'm taking a kicker that can kick further for sure, man. I just don't. There's no way that I don't think that if you released Cairo Santos, guys, I don't think he gets signed by another team unless there's an injury that.
You guys look at
requires
this.
it.
You guys look at this comment by Dibs. It's hilarious. Justin Tucker just signed a 5-year, $100 million fully guaranteed deal with the Cleveland Browns. He's also going to play quarterback.
Oh, Jesus. What is that, man? Why is that a thing? Why is this becoming a thing, Dibs? Stay away from those massage parlors, man. I don't know why this is becoming a thing. And you know what's funny? These players got so much attention. And when a guy like Robert Kraft did it, it was just swept away. You know what I mean? But There's some kind of epidemic going on with that, man.
Well,
It's insane because every team has their own massage therapist, so it's insane that these guys are going out of the team's facilities to go get
Well,
their
is it though?
massages and sexually harass
They're
people.
doing what they're doing, is it? That's why they're doing it. They can't have the one girl complain 27 times.
I'm saying, but at
Just
that
got
point, you might as well
27 different people.
pay somebody for something else, right? I mean, why are you asking
I
a
shouldn't
massage
laugh, guys. This is
therapist
terrible.
just because you're half naked?
I don't know what it is, man. It's some kind of fetish. It's some kind of mental disability.
it's
I
really
don't know
weird, dude.
I don't know what it is, man. It's a problem though, and they should, like you said, Kyle. There's no reason for these guys to. It just doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I don't want to beat that subject up too much.
Well, and Justin Tucker had a terrible season, so I have a feeling he knew some of this stuff was coming.
Yeah, I think
I
he
have a feeling
kind
he knew
of.
these accusations were coming.
Shut up, Dustin. Everybody is begging for this conversation.
Dustin's like, I'm checking in now. I'm back this week. Oh, that's good stuff.
One
What
thing
you
we
get-
know is for sure, Cairo Santos has none of that coming.
No. And again, I think he's a good person. He did have that streak of like inside 39 yards. I think he
I
had
think
like
he's now
45
the
straight field goals made or something. But
I think he's now the highest scoring Bear, or is it the most accurate Bears kicker in the history of the Chicago the
He's
organization?
one of the most accurate kickers in the NFL.
he
And I
is.
think he holds
Accuracy
the
is not
Bears
my
record
issue.
for most points, doesn't he, or something like
Yeah,
that?
Sean. So what I was
Broke it.
asking is how much accuracy are you willing to
No,
give
I
up
don't know.
to get more distance?
Robbie Gold was the franchise leader in points. I don't think he
Like
passed
Sean,
Robbie Gold
like
yet.
if he's the highest accuracy of every kicker in Bears history, then he's obviously the exception to the rule. So if you get a kicker who has more distance, you're probably going to lose some of that accuracy, correct? Like because
Maybe.
obviously it doesn't happen very often.
Here,
if
I'll
he's
tell
the
you
number
this.
one in the world.
I'll tell you this: that Aubrey kid looks like he kicks pretty damn good from 60 yards, pretty straight, pretty consistent. That's what I'm talking about. Go find that kick, Brandon Aubrey.
Those are tough to find, man.
And they seem to be on every team except for the Bears.
No, because
go get
on
your
every
own
team except
private
the Bears,
club.
then he
This-
wouldn't
this
have the highest
conversation-
kick percentage in the NFL. Dude.
This conversation reminds me of Grandma's Boy. Where's the place where the roommate keeps spending all the money instead of paying rent? He keeps going to Lady Kamel's or something like that. It's basically prostitutes.
What I'm saying is, I wouldn't be surprised at all, knowing the Chicago Bears.
Still Robbie Gold. I just looked it up. It's still
Knowing
Robbie
the-
Gold.
Knowing the
Dibs,
Chicago Bears.
have you guys talked about special team signings yet? We'd love to hear your thoughts. I think he's probably talking in regards to Devin Duvernay.
Yes, last week.
Dibs, I did do a little
We
special as
talked
well
about
on
McLeod
Devin
today.
Duvernay.
Yeah.
A signing that I think the Bears absolutely needed to make. It's not something that you're going to read a whole lot about in the news, but it's something a position the Bears needed to excel or get better in. I don't think what they had last year was doing the job, and I think they used a plethora of different guys. I know they did get one return touchdown out of Blackwell when they tricked the Packers in the end of the season, but Duvernay is the guy who's been doing this for a long time. He does it well. He's a playmaker with the ball in his hands, and he's going to definitely up your average on your kick returns by a few yards, probably 3 or 4 yards. And came cheap.
Yeah, I thought it was a
I'm
quality
fine with
signing.
the signing. I don't think he's the best return in the NFL, but I'm fine with the signing, 100%.
Duvernay.
Yeah, now we got a new one. We got a new name. Why won't they give me every Bears record except for most points? Most points still in the history is Robbie Gold at 1,200 and
Yeah, that's going to be tough to beat.
1,200. I think Kevin Butler is second, dude.
Wouldn't surprise me.
1,207. Most touchdowns is obviously Walter Payton. Most net yards is obviously Walter Payton. Why won't they give me all-time scoring leaders for the
Me
Bears?
too, Dibs. I think it's nice. It's also nice to have a kick returner named Devin.
Well,
Back
Sean,
in Chicago.
Santos hasn't been here long, so he's not going to be high on that list.
All right, move on from
Fine on that
Santos, guys.
list.
We love Santos.
We don't.
It is. It goes all-time leaders. Yeah, Santos is actually fifth all-time on the Bears right now. It goes Gold at 1,207, Butler 1,116, Walter Payton 750, Bob Thomas at 629.
Can't
And
forget
then-
about Bob Thomas.
And then Mr. Santos at 500.
Yeah, but that gap is ridiculous. Huge gap, dude.
He's not going to catch him.
Robbie Gold was here for so long, man. He was the staple of the special teams for a long time. That record might be unbreakable for the Bears.
Yeah,
He's amazing.
gonna
I love
be-
Robbie Gold.
it's going to be pretty close, and we can't forget about the old Bob Thomas, man.
Thanks
Bob
for
Turner.
listening, Dibs. Thanks for watching and listening, Dibs. We
Yeah,
appreciate you.
absolutely.
Yeah, gold. You know, it sucks. The special teams, like, there's just no room in Canton for these guys. But if there was, Robbie Gold's a first
Oh,
ballot.
God. I was always.
It sucks that a kicker would have to take place of somebody who deserves it. But if they were on the field every play, Robbie Gold's up there.
Hill and Joint says, "Wait until we have a dome."
I like.
Robbie Gold is on the Wall of Fame up there. So
You guys remember that game against San Fran where Robbie Gold kicked it and the wind just
Oh, yeah. I was at that game.
Do you guys remember the game?
5 yards.
Do you guys remember the game in San Fran where Robbie Gold played for the 49ers and knocked the Packers out of the playoffs?
Yep.
Of course.
Do you remember that?
He didn't have like a cool, but he did it. And
If Jason,
Packers lose on the legs of kickers a lot.
Good.
That's good.
That's good.
Well,
Yeah.
I think
I did it last year.
I think we about covered it, man. I mean, we were talking about for me.
Well, let me ask you this: Is there another school, guys, that you prefer to see the Ben Johnson at these pro days?
I would like to see him at Ohio State because Ohio State is probably going to have the most players drafted in this draft.
I would agree.
Well, and it's Ohio State. I mean, it's Ohio State. Like, just
That
show
too.
up. Somebody will jump off the tape. Will jump off the field. At
The
you.
more I
You're at
watch,
Ohio
man,
State.
the more I watch, the more I really like Travion Henderson. That kid is.
He's explosive. I've been trying to say that for weeks. No one wants to
Well,
listen to me.
another school that's sneakily loading talent in the NFL, man, is Oregon State. There's some studs coming out of Oregon State.
The Beavers.
I love Bo Nix. I absolutely love him.
Is that the Beavers? That is the Beavers.
No, he's a duck. He's a duck.
Ducks.
The
Oregon State
duck.
Ducks.
I'll say this:
Connerly.
if you can get if they can get over to Ohio State, we're gonna know because their pro day is Wednesday, the 26th. So we'll know if he's and like I said, I googled it today. I said, are the Bears expected to be at Ohio State's pro day? And AI answered me and said there's no indication that the Chicago Bears will be in Columbus on March 26th.
What is AI now?
Real quick, guys, before we get out of here, there's something I just wanted to talk about.
Oh,
You know,
God.
a lot of Bears
Kyle, you've
fans,
been seeing massage therapists.
Chicago fans, we've had a lot of reason to complain about being Chicago sports fans for the last 20 years and particularly last year. But I will say this, guys, I know that the Bulls are not good. I understand that they're not a great team and they're not going to win the championship. But man, for having the roster they have that doesn't really have any like major superstars on it per se, or even anybody's close to the notoriety of Zach LaVine, this is the most intrigued I've been watching the Chicago Bulls in the last 10 years, man. I love these young guys. I love Josh Giddey.
It's just good to see him play.
I love Kobe White. I think this team is more dangerous than people give them credit for. They absolutely just dismantled the Los Angeles Lakers with both LeBron James and what's his name, Doncic playing in that game. They both played in that game, and the Bulls absolutely destroyed them. And there was a couple plays by Buzelis that made him look like if he can do that stuff consistently, he's going to be a star in the NBA for a long time. He does some amazing things. And, you know, everybody said the Bulls lost the Oklahoma City Thunder trade when they traded for Josh Giddey. I don't think they lost that trade at all.
Absolutely not.
I think Josh Giddey he's first of all, he's younger than Alex Caruso. He's healthier than Alex Caruso.
Caruso's like 30.
Yeah, and I don't think Alex Caruso is capable of flirting with a quadruple double. I don't think ever in his career would he be a guy who's because he's not capable of scoring that many points.
That's all he provides. He actually only averages 0.2 more steals than Josh Giddey does. Well, Josh Giddey almost just had a quadruple double with steals. He had 8 steals.
Yeah.
The Bulls hosed the Thunder on that trade. Kyle, I'm with you. I like watching these young guys play. Josh Giddey's a future star. The Bulls need to sign him. He is a restricted
and you know
free
what,
agent.
Vernon, now with the way they're playing, I don't want to see them trade Kobe White.
Purgatory still.
I don't want to see him trade Kobe White either. I want him to stay here.
But they still need to go one way or the other. They're going to finish barely in the lottery. They're probably going to get like the 11th pick again, maybe the 12th or something like that. They had a guy like Buzelis fall into their lap because I don't think they're good at drafting either. I think they finally got lucky.
AK is good at drafting the European talent. Yeah, it's like his thing, dude. He just brings all the Europeans over here and lets them dominate.
What are you talking about? Buzelis is an American. He's from Chicago. He's an American.
I'm talking about Jokic. He drafted Jokic.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Jokic, when was Jokic drafted?
Buzelis is from Chicago?
Yeah.
When was
His
Jokic
parents,
drafted?
his parents are like, I forget. His parents both played foreign basketball,
Guys,
professional
I think Jokic
basketball
was
in
drafted
whatever
like 20.
countries, whatever.
I don't think Jokic was a really high pick. Illinois Jones here says Patrick Williams needs to go by. That's one thing I agree with.
Yeah.
That guy is horrendous, and you could be giving that money to somebody who's relevant. So yeah,
Hey, really quick, since Dustin, you can chime in this.
Lithuanian. Sorry,
I-
his parents
I-
are Lithuanian.
I looked at a couple of drafts, and I saw the Bulls drafting Jace Richardson, and the other one I saw was Malawach, the center out of Duke.
Oh, there you go. Oh yeah, dibs. More Lithuanian. Sorry, Sean. And then Jokic.
Which one of those two would you rather have on the Bulls? Because I don't. Hey guys, I don't know anything about the Bulls. They're talking Chinese to me right now. So, but I do look at the NBA drafts because I'm a huge college basketball fan and I like to see where these guys are going to go. So I looked this weekend.
Well, you
at a
liked
couple of
Dalton
mocks.
Canute a lot.
I did like Dalton Connect, but he hasn't worked out in the NBA.
Sean Brown is
Oh,
becoming
he's
one of
got
those.
some pretty damn good games, Sean.
Brown out of KU is becoming one of the most relevant players in the NBA. Man, that guy has been on fire lately. On fire. He might be the sixth man of the year for he's definitely the sixth man for the Nuggets for sure. He's a beast. He's an absolute beast. Brown out of KU.
Oh,
He's a beast, man. Christian Brown, yeah.
Russell Wilson.
So the chat is all saying they want Malawach out of Duke. Is that where you are too, Brandon, over Jace Richardson? I only looked at two mocks. One had the Bulls taking Jace Richardson. The other one was Malawach, the center out of Duke. So the center, I mean, big man. Everyone's saying a big man, big man, big man. So
they desperately need a big man. There's no doubt. In the NBA, Sean, it's a little more draft for need than it is draft for players. Especially once you're past like the top three guys, you're looking at your needs. If you're a top three pick in the draft, you're taking the best guy that's there. NBA is drafts are very thin. That's why people are so willing to give first round draft picks away in trades when they're getting talented players that are already in the NBA. I think the Timberwolves to acquire Gobert from the Jazz, Rudy Gobert from the Jazz gave like 5 first round picks because that's how little teams care about those.
Jordan, how good can this Trey Jones kid is? This guy, how long has he been in the NBA?
Oh, a while. I think this is his 4th year. He's Tyus Jones' brother.
I mean, but they talk about him like he's just some role player or some bench player. He looks damn good to me. He looks
he hasn't
really
been given
good.
a whole lot of opportunity, and look at him, and he's on a team with some guys who can score the ball. So I mean, he's doing a good job at running the court. When Giddey's not on the court, Jones is doing a really quality job at running. I mean, he's out for the next 2 weeks. He's
What's
injured.
Heuer.
Porter.
I got one more question.
I like that guy too.
If there was a guy who I absolutely love out of Texas, Trey Johnson, I think that dude is going to be an absolute beast in the NBA. Or the other kid, why can't I think of his name? Because I know you guys just said you were like a rim protector. Oh, Jeremiah Fears. So if there was a Fears or say a Trey Johnson that fell instead of picking the big man, would you move to those guys because they're dynamic playmakers, or is what this Bulls team needs is that big man rim protector center?
Well, Justin's correct in saying that, but I don't think he means like you're not talking about like Shaq guys, man. So you want an athletic guy, a thin guy, power forward, a guy who can run the court, like a guy who's not Vooch, who's just immobile and on flat feet all the time. You want a guy who can get up above, who can. I mean, you've seen this, guys like Josh Giddey and Kobe White can throw alley oops to players if they're. Jalen Smith's been dunking all over people, but only when he's given the ball in the right spot because. This team has distributors now. They do. Like Lonzo Ball, to me, was what Josh Giddey is what they wanted Lonzo Ball to be. That's what I believe. And I think if you get some guys that can hustle, some guy that can run a fast break offense, because that's what this Bulls team is doing well right now. You want a big man that's athletic, that's tall, thin, length, straight. He's got length. You want somebody like that. I don't want one of these big centers. I want a power forward, a talented power forward.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope that. I mean, you guys, Dustin and Vernon certainly know the most about the Bulls of anybody
yeah.
in 4 stars here. But I would like to see the Bulls like something like, not to say I want to see Vooch get hurt, but something happen where Vooch can't play and they lose a couple more.
Oh, he's
I
going
want
to
to
get
see them
traded, Kyle.
peak
He's
up
gonna
to
get
7,
traded.
8, 9 in the draft because they're just stuck in this spot where they keep getting this 10th, 11th, 12th pick or something. Even
Yeah, it's
sometimes
purgatory. They
they
keep
screw up the
doing they
seventh
keep
pick.
doing the bare minimum to get into the play-in tournament. They've now lost to the Heat 2 years in a row. They're going to play the Heat again. Is what it looks like. They've got to stop doing this.
Patrick Williams was a huge mistake, and then retaining Patrick Williams was a huge mistake. I don't understand the point of drafting a 6th man of the year in college in the top 5 of the NBA draft. Doesn't make any sense to me at all. That's ridiculous. You should be drafting a guy who is good enough to play full time all the time. It just doesn't make any sense. I think they drafted Patrick Williams solely on his athleticism, and he just doesn't have the dog or the fight in him to become a dominant NBA player. But I don't want to spend a bunch of time on it, guys. At some point,
really.
4 stars is going to get an NBA show on here, guys. We probably will be talking more about the Bulls.
Well, and one thing, Kyle, that front office has done well is giving these guys quality contracts. The Kobe Whites, the Io DeSumus, the Vooch. These are tradable players because they're on good deals, and teams who are actually contending year in and year out could use that as the final piece, the piece that gets them over the hump. Like if the Lakers signed a guy like Vooch or traded, to acquire a guy like Vooch, good Lord.
Yes, Dustin, I believe you're talking about Malawach. I think his first name is like, come on, Malawach. I'm not even pretend how to. I know his last name is Malawach. I don't know his first name, but I think we're talking about the same player.
Sean's talking about some guy that sells watches on the corner. Malawach?
No, Malawach is a stud, man. He's going to have a good tournament. Hopefully they lose because my only chance in the bracket now is for Houston to take this thing and win the championship. So go Houston.
I'm not trying to spell his name yet. I have his name's Come On. Don't
is that what it is? Is it Come On?
I don't know. It's a G-rated show, Sean.
Come on, Malawach. I'm not trying to spell it.
Got the spell.
Come on, do it, Dustin.
The Bulls need help, guys, and they're not going to be in a good position to draft anybody with any talent, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but they're getting younger and they're fun to watch, and that's all that matters to me, guys. Because I don't expect the Bulls to win a championship under Jerry Reinsdorf, but at least they're somewhat entertaining. I watched the Bulls Lakers game, and I watched the Bulls Sacramento Kings game. And it was both of them were.
Kobe White is on a tear right now. He is tearing the league apart right now.
Should I sell?
He's been Player of the Week 2 weeks in a row.
Superstar. If he could just do that more consistently, he's a superstar. He's just got to do it more like Kobe. You got to do it every day.
And he needs a guy like Giddey, man. He's a shooter. He needs a guy like Giddey who can run the floor. Kobe White to me is not your typical point guard. He's not. He shouldn't be taking the ball up the court.
He's Ben Johnson. Not Ben. What's his name? What was that guy's name?
Ben Gordon.
Ben Gordon. Yeah.
A little better at getting to the hoop than Ben Gordon, too.
The Bulls have always had a history of short little guys who are good at shooting.
So yes, Dustin is right here, man. This is what I'm talking about. If Kobe White is not only on a really team-friendly deal, Kyle, where he can stay here. If you want to keep him, stick around. You're not paying him too much money to do so, and he's outplaying his contract by far, but he's also going to be probably the most sought-after player in the NBA in this offseason.
What's his contract?
I don't remember, man. He got it 2 years
Dustin,
ago.
Where are you at, man?
Is he a free agent at the end of this year?
No. They gave him an extension, I think, last offseason. The same year they signed Io DeSumu, they signed Kobe White, and they both got really, really good contracts for the Bulls.
What was DeSumu doing?
He's been good. He's a quality player off the bench. He comes in off the bench and does his job. He can average over 12 points. I mean, I think now he's averaging like over the course of his career, like 13 and a half points. He averages like 4 assists. He's a quality player, and he's good at getting to the hoop. The same thing he did at Illinois, Sean. Good at drawing a foul. He's aggressive. He's a big guard. Gets bigger every year.
As the playoffs get going, I'll pay a little bit more attention to it. You know, I don't know.
John, if you're at home, you're bored, and they're on TV. I'm telling you, man,
I can't watch them. They want to charge me to watch this product.
Boozellis is a very exciting.
Don't give me that. I know you have resources in your HDMI port.
I got a couple of ways to get it done. I do have good news though. Now that Tony is switching back to DirecTV, I'm going to be able to get CHSN for free because I'm going to log in under his email. I'm back in business.
I'm telling you, man, just if you're bored at home, watch them. They're fun. It's fun.
You want to know what's funny as you're saying
score a
that?
lot.
That's the same thing that is happening with the Blackhawks. It's happening a little bit more. The Bulls are sending a little bit faster, but the Blackhawks have become somewhat fun to watch, even though they can't win a damn thing. But they snapped their losing streak.
That speech, who's the retiring player? The guy was just celebrated by St. Louis. He's played for like 14 years or something. He's retiring at the end of the season.
On the Blues?
No, on the Blackhawks. The Blues gave him like he won a championship with the Blues. He scored the championship winning goal, and he got like a ovation when they were in St. Louis last week.
I don't remember.
But he gave a speech about how the Hawks need to finish the final 2 weeks of this season creating something they can build off of because the young talent is just too good to be bad. I mean, they just got a lot of good young talent, man.
I was going to say, did the Hawks acquire Vladimir Tarasenko?
No.
That'd be awesome.
It's Patrick Maroon.
Maroon, yes.
Yeah.
Patrick
Maroon. I'll tell you this, man. We talked about it on the show on Saturday, and I couldn't agree with Alex more. They need a damn professional coach to mold this talent.
And
Yeah,
a
their
goalie.
coaching's been so
The
bad.
Hawks need a goalie, a really good goalie.
The Hawks got one.
I like
Spencer
Price.
Knight, dude. Spencer
Or
Knight.
Knight. Yeah, I like Knight.
Didn't Knight? Isn't he given up like a ton of goals since he's gotten here?
I mean, dude,
No.
it's all about your defense in front of you. When he first got here, he was
He's
doing
facing
really
like
well.
48 shots a game.
Yeah, I mean, you put a defense in front of
That's not
Spencer
necessarily
Knight.
that's a common misconception among Blackhawks fans. The Hawks actually this year have been a lot better out shooting their opponents, especially early on in the season. They're not giving up nearly as many shots as they were last year, man.
He allowed
Not
his debut
They
on the
have bad
Hawks. He
games.
allowed one goal, and he faced like 49 shots on goal. Dude, that's just not good enough.
I'm
They
just
have
going to
bad
tell you,
games, but they also have
tell you
good-
this, Kyle. Spencer Knight coming into the league, he was a top 15 pick. I want to say
He was a
12,
top 10
13,
pick, wasn't he?
right
Oh, I
in
thought
there.
he was top 10.
No, he was a little bit below the top 10. He was in between 13 and 15. I can't remember. But this dude came in with the hype of the next big thing.
And he
the
was
goaltender
drafted at like
position.
18 years old or
Yeah.
something.
Then why was
He's
he
still
traded?
A kid.
He was traded
because he was on a team with a plethora of goalies.
Yeah, but not only that, he went into, I believe he went into the like substance
mental
abuse
health
program.
issues,
Yeah, he
yeah.
had some mental health issues. And
So
you know
he's
what?
Scott Darling.
Sometimes a change of scenery is what you need. I still believe in Spencer Knight. I think Spencer Knight's going to
No,
be real.
he did take time off of hockey for mental health.
He did.
Well, that's exactly what happened to Scott Darling, guys.
Yeah, but Scott Darling, I think, had
drug and
some
alcohol issues, and he came to Chicago and cleaned his life up.
I didn't hear anything about substance abuse when it came to Knight. I just heard he had mental health.
No, it was. I couldn't remember if it was substance abuse or I knew he had something where he stepped away from the game for a little bit.
It was like who's the pitcher on the fucking Cubs that needed to see a life coach? Tyon? What's the guy's name? Tyon?
I never knew Tyon saw a life
Jameson
coach.
Tyon?
Yeah, Tyon had to see a life coach last season. He had a coach who would show up to his games and talk to him before the game started on the games he pitched. You guys didn't know that?
All right,
No.
let's get out of here, guys.
Yeah, read more about that, man, because his pitching, his ERA came down like by 2 when the guy started coaching him, when his life coach started joining him before games. Read about it.
I was just reading on Spencer Knight. Yeah, he signed a 3-year deal. His contract's up like at the end of the season, so the Hawks going to have to re-up him unless they did, and I missed it.
All right, Justin, Illinois Jones, Dib, Breaking News, Bruce, Jebediah, Phil. Who am I missing, guys?
Lots of people.
Aunt Mass, Erica, Daniel Jeffries, Broski. Appreciate all you guys, man. Thank you so much for Kyle Harris.
Daniel
PT57.
Jeffries. Did you say Daniel Jeffries? If you did, I missed it. Sorry.
Yeah, I did. CTI, we'll call him, I guess. Dennis Moody. Appreciate all you guys. Thank you so much for joining us as always, guys. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Please share us with your friends if you enjoy watching.
Anything you want to get out there before we wrap up?
Shit, fuck Green Bay.
All right. Yeah. Let's go. That a boy. Awesome.
Yeah, remember, guys, April 24th, live
Be there,
show,
guys.
draft show at River Street Tavern, 102 North River Street, East Dundee. Great food. There'll be great specials there that day, guys. we're looking forward to. We'll be there. We'll be there. We're going to stay live as long as the Bears are still haven't drafted, right, guys? Even if they trade back.
Yeah, I don't know if if they trade back to 20, I don't know
guys-
if we're gonna stay on for
you
10
guys wanna
picks.
meet-
That could be an hour and a half, dude. We'll definitely
We should go over the picks before.
Yeah,
the
we're going to go
Bears.
talk about the picks that are picked before him. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we'll definitely pop back on. I don't
Bruce will
know.
be there too, guys. If you want to meet the star behind
Yeah,
the
if
power.
you guys are in the area, if you can make it out to East Dundee, please come check us out, man. We'd love to say what's up to the people who come join us every show. We'd love to put a face to the name here, guys. We appreciate all you guys so much. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, and great giveaways, man. And we're raising money for charity.
What did I
All
call you,
those things
Justin?
together.
Bruce,
Bruce House. All
Bruce,
those
my
things
man.
together, man, and it's a great night. You get to hang out with us all. I think I'll be there. Work may take me away from this event. Not 100% sure at this moment, but there's a possibility, which was kind of depressing today, but we'll see.
You're not going to be at the draft show?
I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure yet.
He's a big St. Louis guy. He just loves hanging out in St. Louis.
I may have to go to St. Louis from the 20th of April to the 6th of June. So
The armpit of the
or
United
May, excuse me. So yeah, I may not be here for a couple of 4-star shows either. So
All right, guys. Thank
I'll
you
be
so
working
much.
7 to 7. So well, we love y'all. Peace and
Yeah,
love.
appreciate
Don't forget,
you.
Wednesday we'll be back for Barely There. Thursday, the bare minimum. And we're gonna figure out Saturday. We'll let you know on Wednesday. We love y'all. Thank y'all. Bear down and stay safe out there, everybody.